Nice to have all of you here, and I knew they'd turn my microphone off, and I didn't want to still be raising my voice. So I'm Mike McCann. I'm the mayor of the city of Defiance, and I just want to welcome you all here tonight. First order of business would be you may all want to consider silencing your cell phones. And if you haven't done that, we'll pause for just a moment because I wasn't going to start until that clock said 16:56, because that would pair up with my iPhone that I'm sure right about now will say 6 or 5 o'clock, excuse me. So, welcome to all of you here. We're thrilled to have you. And excuse me for reading this, but I wanted to make sure I got my notes correct. We really appreciate the tremendous interest in tonight's discussion. We recognize that people have different perspectives on data centers. And that's exactly why we're here. To listen, to share accurate information, and have a respectful conversation about what is best for Defiance. We may not all leave tonight with the same opinion, but I hope that we leave with a better understanding of the facts, the process, and each other's concerns. Our community has always been the strongest when we tackle difficult conversations together, and I know tonight will be no exception. We always start our meetings with a pledge. For those of you that can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Lori to do a prayer today. Lori is the chaplain at Mercy Health. She's been employed there for 51 years, and today's her birthday.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for the opportunity to gather as neighbors who care deeply about our community. We are grateful for each person here and for the freedom to come together to discuss matters that affect us all. We know that tonight's conversation may be difficult and that people come with deeply held convictions and sincere differences of opinion. We ask you to calm our hearts, guide our thoughts, and give us gracious words. Help us to choose understanding over assumptions, listening over shouting, and respect over the need to be right. Remind us that every person in this room is worthy of dignity and respect, and that our words have the power to either wound or to heal. Bless our elected officials, city staff, and everyone participating in this meeting. Grant wisdom in every decision, fairness in every discussion, and a shared commitment to seek the good of our city of Defiance. May we leave this room not necessarily in agreement, but with a deeper respect for one another and a renewed commitment to the good of our community. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
I think if there's one thing we can agree on, and I know there'll be many things we'll agree on, it's that data centers wasn't really a phrase most of us expected to become part of our daily vocabulary. Tonight isn't about convincing anyone what to think. It's about making sure everyone has access to the same information, understands the process, and has the opportunity to be heard. Whether your priority is protecting farmland, creating jobs, ensuring reliable utilities, preserving property values, or planning responsibly for future generations, those are all valid concerns. Our job tonight is to discuss how those priorities fit into this conversation. We've had plenty of conversations about roads this year, construction, and now data centers. One thing's for sure, there's never a shortage of topics that Defiance isn't engaged in. So let's, as my wife said, commit to listening as respectfully as we want someone to listen to us. Patient is welcome. Personal attacks aren't. Everyone deserves the opportunity to speak. So I think we're going to get started. What we'd like to do with you first is Nikki Warnicki is our zoning commissioner. She's been with the city for quite a few years now. She's the first person that I hired when I became mayor. She originally was working as our planner and still does planning, but at 6 months or so ago, she switched over to zoning, and she's doing a spectacular job. And the timing, frankly, could not have been better because her background is what has made it possible to put what we're showing you tonight together. So, Nikki, take it away.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me tonight since nobody could hear me last time. Great. Okay. I just want to start this discussion. Originally, I was tasked with putting together this presentation to do for City Council to explain to them the process that we took at Planning Commission to make some changes to the zoning code. That was always the intent of this presentation, and it was just to prepare us and update our zoning code should there be any development that came along for data centers, campuses, and the like. But what I would like to start with tonight is just kind of educating people a little bit on the process of the development process for the City of Defiance and how we do things. Everything from when the applications come in and the different departments in the city and what we do to get it to Planning Commission and eventually to council if it goes to council. The first part of the process is the application. So the applicant contacts the city to begin the development review process. If the application is submitted and there's a site plan, then we move forward. If there's not, then we kind of go back and forth with the applicant until we get to that point. One of the requirements of this application process is you have to have a pre-application meeting with both the zoning commissioner and the city engineer to review the site plan prior to submitting, meaning you have to have all of your everything together. You have to have your site plan together, you have to have all your documentation, you're supposed to have all your plans together that are required, and all of those items. Once we do that, we start that process. And just to be clear, applicants could include property owners, developers, engineers, architects, attorneys, or otherwise authorized representatives. We do review as a city staff, which means all division heads. So every department, every division of the city reviews all the applications at a staff review meeting that we have every month to make comments, to make concerns, to put all that together into a staff review plan for Planning Commission to review. From that point, once we get past staff review, we go on to the required notifications, which is usually happening at about the same time. That's going to be important for everybody in this room because if you are doing a conditional use permit, a variance request, a rezoning, or a map amendment, those require notification of all of the property owners within 200 feet of that boundary of where the case is taking place. So you would get a letter in the mail if you're within that 200 feet. That is a Ohio Revised Code requirement, and that's one that we also follow at the city. We also put it in the newspaper. We put it on our website. We advertise, so we advertise in the newspaper. There's different requirements depending on what it is. If it's a variance, it has to be 21 days prior. There's some requirements require 30 days prior. And it'll always be on the website under the agendas tab on the front page. And then once we get past that, we get to Planning Commission. Planning Commission has received all the members receive a packet about a week ahead of time before Planning Commission. That includes staff review comments. That includes all of the background information, everything that the applicant has given us, everything that we've put together research-wise, and me trying to anticipate any questions that Planning Commission might have. They get that a week ahead of time so that they can kind of review it and they know what their questions are. They may ask me before the meeting. Our meetings are every third Monday of the month. Those are set in stone. They're in city council chambers. So every third Monday of the month, there is a Planning Commission meeting unless there's no agenda, meaning there was no applicants received. We go through that meeting. For certain items, Planning Commission will make the final decision, and that's going to be conditional use requests, variance requests. Anything like an alley vacation or a street vacation, a rezoning or a map amendment, that's going to go with a recommendation from Planning Commission on to City Council. And then that's a whole nother process that we go through for City Council, because most of those will require another public hearing. You'll get another notification in the mail. You'll get another posting in the newspaper, and so on. And once all those take place, the review is final, and we move on from there. And that's actually the point that it moves on to permitting and all the stuff that they have to do with the state and all of those items. So just to give you a little bit of background information, this process can take anywhere from a month, depending on what it is, to 4 to 6 months. A map amendment or a rezoning is going to take at least, we tell people, 4 to 6 months at the least amount of time. It just depends.
And we're criticized for that. Developers say your process is too cumbersome, it takes too long, but we feel that it's best to get a project right. And so we do go through these processes, and most cities do. You get out in the rural areas, it can be different, but most cities, especially cities our size and bigger, go through this process. I think you were going to hit on Notify Me.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're on our website, you can always go to Notify Me on the front page. There's a little button down there. You click on it. You can sign up for all the agendas for Planning Commission, any of the commissions actually, City Council, all of that stuff. Highly recommend it. We are required by law to put any time there's going to be a public hearing to change something or have an application reviewed, we have to put that, we have to post that somewhere. So just keep that in mind. That's going to be your easiest way to know what's going on with Planning Commission development wise. It's not just about data centers either. There's other development going on you're going to want to know about as well. So that was just a quick run through, and just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So this is the timeline that we started with. I started in June. I'm sorry. I wish it was June. No, I started in January as the zoning commissioner. By February, I was tasked by Board of Control to start researching the need for zoning changes because of data centers. We were talking about this. We noticed everything that was happening in Archibald. We noticed what was happening in Van Wert. Like, we're all aware of what's happening in the area around us. If somebody had come in with an application for a data center use, it wasn't listed in our zoning code. So what that means is I have to look at the permitted uses table and kind of figure out a way to make that fit. The easiest one that we could fit it into was warehousing. Well, warehousing use in an M district would just require site plan review. Now, site plan review only doesn't require those notification requirements. So site plan review could have gone on in Planning Commission and nobody would have necessarily known had we not tried to notify some people, but there was no requirement to notify anybody. None of us wanted to see that happen. We wanted to be able, at the very least, for people in the community to be notified that these projects were taking place. This is a very controversial issue, and that was my recommendation. So from that point on, we moved on with, I moved on with the research for data centers, campuses, and power generating facilities. Keep in mind, power generating facilities is important because as technology changes and the grid and everything else, these data centers come along with their own power generating facilities.
Do I need to raise my hand?
Sure.
Okay. Board of Control. In case you don't know, the Board of Control is leadership of the city. It's made up of the mayor, Ryan Mack, city administrator, Kim Sprague, the finance director, and our new law director, Chelsea Sarragan. Chelsea, why don't you stand up? She's our new law director. Just got approved last night by City Council. I love going to work every day and working with these guys. They're just great people to work with. They care about the city. They care about everything. Sorry, Nikki.
That's okay. So by the March meeting, the March Planning Commission meeting, I had included in their packets quite a bit of research from various locations. As a planner, I'm always going to look at the American Planning Association. I'm going to look at Urban Land Institute, National League of Cities. There's reputable places to find your research for different topics like this, especially regarding zoning issues. I had included that with the packet. We talked about it at the meeting. We talked about how we wanted to start addressing this use, and we were going to kind of take it a little bit slow, not overwhelm with information, to do it all in one meeting, because it's a lot to take in, and it's a big zoning change that this planning commission really hasn't gone through necessarily before. So by the April meeting, after we did all the research, I came up with 3 potential ways that this could be listed in the permitted uses table. One would be by right zoning, which means it's just listed in the permitted uses table. It's by right. There are no special conditions necessarily added to that. By right means it only requires site plan review, doesn't require notification requirements. There's a conditional use permit, which would require notification requirements, would only be allowed in certain districts, and could potentially have additional special uses added with them, or requirements, I'm sorry. And then there's an overlay district, which would be identifying different areas within our city limits where we would put these districts, which requires a lot more time, effort, and research. And typically when development happens in a smaller city, you're coming in, the applicant has done their due diligence and decided this is where they want it. This is where, their market studies or whatever have said, this is where we would like to put it. So listing through those again, because the by right zoning does not require the condition, or does not require the notification requirements, that was not my recommendation. I wanted to change this so at the very least, whatever we ended up changing this to, there would be that notification requirement of at least notifying those people within 200 feet around that area. The other great thing about a conditional use permit is this allows the planning commission to look at everything on a case-by-case basis. So as they're looking at the site plan and you guys are coming in and telling them what you do or don't want for development, let's say, you're concerned about noise, you're concerned about buffering, you're concerned about all those things that we're all concerned about. It may list whatever, a 200-foot setback from residential. Well, instead we would rather have that be 500 or 1,000 feet from residential. We want it as far away from residential as possible with as much buffering as possible. So that a conditional use permit allows planning commission to kind of make those changes and add those extra items to that permit. So it becomes site specific. It's not just all the things that are listed in the zoning code as requirements, it's extra requirements on top of, because this is where the site is located and these are our concerns. And then the overlay district, I think I mentioned, that one, it just requires a lot more work. It's not necessarily what we were considering. So my recommendation to Planning Commission was to consider the conditional use permit as change in the permitted uses table. So the added benefit of a conditional use permit is you have this conditional use worksheets according to this chapter of the code. These are the items A through L that every time we look at a conditional use permit situation, planning commission has to ask all of these questions. These are yes or no answers. They can also add the concerns in. Because we do this with every conditional use permit, it becomes the standard across the board, right? So it's not, we're not picking and choosing what we want to do. We're looking at each one of these items. The important part, and I know you may not be able to read this from where you're sitting, is there's some items in here. I'm sorry, I just blinked on which numbers. You have items like the proposed use will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. The proposed use are not limited or can be limited in hours of operation that will be detrimental to any persons. There's things in here that as you come to the microphone and you state your concerns, they're going to be addressed in this worksheet. And is that something that is a serious concern that planning commission really needs to consider when they're deciding whether or not to grant this conditional use permit? So by the May 18th planning commission meeting, and just to go back to this, they did, at that meeting, we did decide conditional use permit is what we wanted to use. We wanted to use conditional use permits in the M district only for data centers and their power generating facilities. Then at the May 18th meeting, in the packet that was handed out, I kind of went through, I took all the regulations that are already in place for all the things like setbacks, landscape buffering, parking, building materials, all of those things, noise. What do you want to see above and beyond these regulations? Because we could also add special regulations into the conditional use permit. My recommendation was not necessarily to do that because we wanted to keep it site specific. We wanted to have a little bit of that ability to add what we needed to add at the time an application was made. So going through all this, I took the code, I identified what all these specifics were. This one is the setbacks for any M district use. We have outdoor lighting, architectural design standards, performance standards, landscape requirements. These are all things that are already in our code that we have to follow for any M district use. So they're already in there, they're already established. I also took the noise ordinance because we all know that that's going to be a concern. The noise ordinance is in 509.08 of the City of Defiance Codified Ordinances. In the M district, this is the period of any time. So at any time, it cannot be above 70 decibels. We have the ability to measure that. We have the ability to, stop somebody if they're exceeding that limit. It also lists the vibration, because I know a lot of people are concerned about the vibration as well, rightfully so, and what we need to do to test for that and deal with that as well. So that isn't in the zoning code, it's in the noise ordinance, but it's still an ordinance that we can follow, that we can hold this use standard to.
I think it would be, can you wait? Okay.
Okay.
We'd like to wait to the end because your question may get answered as part of the presentation.
And I can always go back in the presentation
Yep.
too. Yep. And I added in, just so everybody's aware, 70 decibels on this list is listed as average office noise. So that's pretty common. 70 is a pretty common number. That's probably why it's listed in our noise ordinance that way. So by the June 20th Planning Commission meeting, we knew we were doing the conditional use permit. We knew we were doing it in the M district. We ended up with, I had listed out what the two lists of what would be added to the permitted uses table, and then the two definitions that we had to add into the definitions section of the code. We didn't add those special requirements. We left it open, like I said, to be site specific, to be a part of that conditional use permit. The requirements that are in place for any development in the end districts already included most of what people would want to see, but we can add above and beyond to those requirements as well. This is an example of the permitted uses table and what that's going to look like. It'll be added into that table under industrial use classification. This is the rest of the timeline. I think everybody's kind of aware, everybody's on social media, so you know where we've been up and down and all around with everything. Then after we had this meeting scheduled and after I had talked or sent my packet over to City Council, I did have some council members ask if there was additional information that we could add in, not just adding to the permitted uses table and being kind of generic. Are there specifics that we could add in? Through my research, I found this data center ordinance guide, which is actually an amazing document, and offer that up to council with different language that we could put in the ordinance to be adopted as part of the zoning code. So I took those pieces, and what you see in the yellow is what's already listed in our zoning code to kind of compare what we already have with what was listed in this document. This took care of everything from power, water usage, co-location of energy systems, thermal impacts, which is obviously something we hadn't thought of, the noise and vibration, which compared those with our noise ordinance, the electronic waste that nobody's thought of, It could also be from decommissioning, because as technology changes, are these buildings going to be sitting empty at some point because you no longer need a big building? I don't know. We don't know. Everything's happening quickly. I also had these other requests received relative to the planning and zoning code updates to restrict the data centers to M3 districts only, to allow that there would be no variances for data center uses, which, if I know you're not familiar, I'm not going to say if you're familiar with the college overlay district, but there are no variances allowed in the college overlay district. So there are other areas that we address that in the zoning code. There would be requirements for air or closed loop cooling systems, and then also defining what crypto mining is and prohibit this use. Um, and then at the very end of this document, the data center document that I had, was listed about a community benefits agreement. And that's something that I've also been asked. How do we do this? How do we get this in writing, what we want, or what's been an agreement in the negotiation? If a data center comes here and we need them to build a new water treatment facility and we need them to do these things for infrastructure, and in addition to that, we also have negotiated some sort of community benefit where they give money to the schools or they give money to whatever, how do we put that together? So I did add that in the packet for council, just to kind of get that conversation started. That one I'm not as familiar with, but I'm ready to do the research on as well. So the whole point of this is not to think that or assume that one is automatically coming. The point is that we're ready if one comes and it's already in our zoning code to protect us and to get what we need to get as a community, because it is your community. This is our community. You have every right to say what you do or don't want here. This meeting is so that everybody can stand up and say, I don't want this here. Now the mayor's going to say, why don't you want this here? So be ready to answer that question. Specifically, why don't you want this here? But just keep that in mind. I can only speak for myself. I like to think I could speak for everybody else here, but we do care. We do want to listen, and we are concerned, just like you guys are. So there's my information. If you have other ideas that you want to share with me, please email them to me. I'm willing to look at them. I'm willing to answer your questions. The notify me's on there for you to sign up to get the agendas, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Nikki, great job. I know some of that went through quick, and I think
Thank you.
After last Tuesday, Nikki was a bit apprehensive, and I want to apologize for last Tuesday. We underestimated the number of people that were going to be there. We certainly could have moved that meeting to a different time, place, and venue like we have tonight. But what you just saw is what we planned on doing at 5 o'clock last Tuesday. So we are ready to move to questions. How many people think they have a question or a comment? Okay, that's not a ton. All right. So last night I was queried at the city council meeting about the 2-minute limit that we put on questions, and it wasn't 2 minutes, but I'll say my wife said a lot in her prayer. That was less than 2 minutes. The Pledge of Allegiance is less than a minute. We say a lot in that little short play of you talking. Okay. So what we thought, you're going to ask questions that we can't answer. So Chelsea Girding, stand up. Chelsea is my assistant and Ryan's assistant at City Hall. She's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Chelsea's recommendation was, along with Nikki, that we start a data center page on our website and have FAQs, and we update those routinely as questions come up. So Nikki gave her your email, my email. You don't have to know how to spell my name, just my title. mayor@cityofdefiance.gov. It's that simple. Remember, .gov, not .com. That used to be. It's now .gov. So mayor@cityofdefiance.gov, you email me. I'll let you know who I forwarded that on to, and we will get you an answer, as well as add that to our FAQs so everyone can benefit from that. I don't think we want to do notify me every time we update questions, but that's what we want to do. So what we would like for you to do to ask a question, we have microphones at each end. Ryan will man that one, Kim will man that one, and you can ask your question. We'd like to keep it somewhere close to 2 minutes with your question or comment, and then some won't require any sort of an answer. You just want to make a statement. Nikki's right. I may ask why. If you get up to the microphone and you say, I'm opposed to data centers, I want to know why. Are you concerned about the water? Are you concerned about noise? Are you concerned about vibration? Are you concerned about traffic? And you may say, well, I'm concerned about all those things. Well, let's narrow it down. And secondly, if we go over an issue and we answer it, let's try not be redundant in our questions. Don't ask the same question over and over and over. Respect your time. To get out a decent time, Bud's has fresh peach and raspberry pie, so you can run over there. But I'll stay all night. I don't care. I may cut a few people loose, but I'll stay all night, answer your questions, and talk with you. I don't care. So, you want to go first, ma'am? Ma'am, I can't hear you. Come on up. Come on up here. I know who you are. I won't embarrass you. I promise. Well, it sounds like you got a statement. Okay.
I just wondered whether the people who are going to ask questions or make a statement would please give their name.
Okay.
Are you going to do that, or
remember, I'm entitled. Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when someone makes a statement or a question, then it refers back to their background, to their positions that they've been in, to where they live, to lots of things.
This young lady in the back would like for you to state your name.
Thank you for the young.
It's
Yes,
not a
ma'am.
requirement. It's not a requirement, but if you want to introduce yourself to us, I know some of you, but not all of you. And so we want to get started here. Ryan, Kim, go.
Do you have questions?
You walk. This is quite simple. Yes, I want you to come to us. So you will walk over. We can form a nice line here. He's harmless. And you stand on the X and you say, Mr. Mayor, how old is your wife?
No.
All right, I'm Jamie. I live on Greer Street. This will be pretty close to my backyard, and I'll have to listen to it all the time. One of my questions is, who's going to benefit from this, getting a data center? Am I going to benefit from it, and how?
Okay. I can't necessarily cite all the benefits, but let me say this. We've yet to talk to a data center, and I've said that repeatedly, and nobody believes me. We've talked to developers. We have talked to multiple developers, at least 3 that I can think of, and maybe more. And those developers, when they're talking to us about different opportunities, again, like as Nikki said, last year, back in 25, would say, well, what about data centers? I go, what's a data center? And they start to talk about that. And we start to educate ourselves more on data center. And at that point, we're learning about some of the things that you're concerned about: electrical usage, water consumption, noise. Although I've been around data centers now, I've not found a noisy one yet. And as Nikki outlined, we're going to set that level at 70 decibels, which is probably quieter than this room right now.
And I just looked up systematic torture as 79 decibels.
Okay.
So is there anybody here from
So
the
I was going
data
to talk a
center
little bit about benefits.
that wants to tell us about benefits?
So what I will say is, on the benefits side, we have no desire to offer any tax advantages to a data center. None. It's off the table. I will tell you, most negotiations, when we bring a company of defiance, their line right out of the box is, ask not what your city or what we can do for your city, but what you can do for us. I mean, they really do what tax advantages, blah, blah, blah. That won't be the case with data centers. We will be having our hand out, and we will be asking for things that we would like to see in our city. I think we all agree that we would like to do more with our parks. We have street improvements we'd like to make. If there's a huge demand for water, the data center folks are going to have to pay for the upgrades, not only to our water plant, but our distribution system. They would have to pay for that stuff. Now, I just learned today that there are cities that have data centers that have special water rates for data centers and say, oh, you're giving the water away. No, it's the other way. They charge data centers even more for water. So if we can charge data centers more for the water they use, which their water consumption in a modern day data center is much less than some that were built 20 years ago. That in theory, if they're paying more, helps cover our fixed costs, your water rates should stay steady or possibly even go down.
Okay, so did someone from our community invite a data center to come, or did the data center approach someone and ask if they could come?
We haven't talked to a data center yet, ma'am. And the developers came to us.
Okay.
Erica Willitzer is our economic development director. Kara is her assistant. They have a website. On that website are parcels of land that are available for development. Developers go on those websites, they look at that land, they go to other places, they see that land, and then they reach out to Erica and say, all right, what do you have?
Okay. Now, what about the people that aren't in city limits, whose property abuts up to where we're assuming this is going to go? Do they have any say in this?
Do they say in what way? They certainly are entitled to an opinion.
There's a case down in southern Ohio where the lights affected a man's crops, and he actually sued ODOT and won. The light pollution is known to affect.
Lighting's in our
growing.
code.
Yeah,
Lighting is in our code. I don't know where in southern Ohio. I don't know
23 and 30.
if lighting was addressed.
Yeah,
But
we
lighting
erected
is in our
mast
code.
lighting. One mast light that we have out on 24, and it burned all night long, and he lost soybeans for it. So will the farm fields out that, or are we not going to have farm fields at all out there anymore?
I can't answer that question.
I mean, those are things I wonder about,
Sure.
and I don't know if everybody else wonders too.
I understand.
You know, so light pollution.
So
Yep.
for light pollution, we would be able to measure that because that's listed in the code as being a certain limit depending on what it is. So we would go out, we would have to measure what that light is doing. If they're in violation of a code, then yes, we can go after them for that.
But the damage will already be done.
I understand that.
You know, the same
Yeah.
way with, will they be leaching chemicals into the ground that will affect her
Correct.
well?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know those
Yeah.
things. So do we want to take a chance and ruin all that?
Right.
Is my question. I guess that's my point. Who wants to take a chance and have their homes ruined?
Mhm.
I mean, we don't know. So
Okay.
that's
Thank-
about it.
Thanks for your questions. We're going to go back and forth. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Rebecca Michael. You guys probably saw me on the video last week talking to City Council. I have a couple questions, and I'm really glad Mr. Keller is here because some of them are for you, and you don't have to answer because I think you can. And I want to thank Nikki because one of my biggest questions, because I'm on the tree commission for the city, I've busted my tail in the parks. I don't know how many tons of mulch I've moved this summer and this spring. So the parks are pretty important to me, and those darn trees are as well. I didn't know anything about data centers until Facebook. Facebook has a lot of rumors. Not all of them are true, people. Some of them are. My biggest one was the closed loop liquid cooling system. I assumed, oops, that these data centers would be sucking water out of our river or the ground. And once you take the water out of the ground, you can't put it back in and putting dirty water back into the river. With this closed loop cooling system, they don't. The water just continuously cools, go back just continuously. So I was glad to know that was put into the ordinances.
Can you take a little break?
Yeah.
So she is a good member of our tree commission. I do appreciate her dedication. She's right. The closed loop system, water is put in the system, charges the system, circulates through the system, just like the cooling system on your car if you have a radiator. If your car's air cooled or you've got a Tesla, that doesn't count. But that's how that works. The one point I wanted to make, Becky, is the system's not. It has to be just like your radiator. It has to be drained occasionally and recharged. And they say that could take around. And again, I only know what I read. We have not talked to a data center. Is about 1 million gallons. So, yeah, that's carry on.
Okay. My other question was, has a developer been approached to put a data center in?
I don't think he wants to answer that question.
And
I don't
that's
think-
fine.
I don't
That's
think he has-
why. That's
that-
fine.
The developer stuff, we're not there yet.
Absolutely.
We're just not there yet.
And I keep hearing that the city hasn't been approached, from the articles you've read, which are really good, thank you, and what I've heard you guys say. My biggest concern.
Let me say, I would really like to talk to a data center to try and separate the wheat from the chaff, if you will, to find out exactly what the water usage is, the electrical usage is, and what they plan on doing for electricity and that sort of stuff. We haven't had that chance. So all I know is not what I read on False Book. I don't go there.
Right.
But I do read a lot of information that Nikki sends my way and the state of Ohio and others.
Last 2 points.
Yep.
I'm a little worried about this moratorium because after I read it a little bit, and I don't understand all of it, but there's an emergency clause that you can sign and make it so. Can you explain that to us?
I've not read that ordinance yet because we never got to it last Tuesday. I do think that is going to be discussed at a special meeting of City Council 2 weeks from. So yesterday was the 4th, the 11th, the 18th at 5 o'clock at the community auditorium. Not here, the community auditorium. So 5 o'clock on Tuesday, the 18th. By then I will have read it. You know what? If council doesn't like that piece, take it out. I don't care.
No. The way I read it was, okay, yeah, we can put a year moratorium on it to give us time to get our ducks in a row, which we should. But the language kind of gave you the okay. I think we do need a data center. My signature makes it so.
Yeah, that's
At
why I
any
said,
point within that
if
year.
they want to take that out, they can take that out. I'll also say that council could lift the moratorium.
Absolutely.
I do think the moratorium sends a really bad message. A really, really bad message. And you say having our ducks in a row? I think she's done a spectacular job.
Spectacular.
And
Yeah.
we can have our ducks in a row here in just a few weeks.
But I think we need more time to chew on it as a community. But I've got the microphone. My last question is, and it kind of touches base on Jamie's, being a tree hugger that I am, I know how the EPA works. And I know when something gets spilled into the river and it kills a bunch of fish, or Campbell dumps something somewhere, or Manville or someone, they have the funds to pay for those fines. And I can just about guarantee you these data centers do as well. But when the damage is done, the damage is done.
I understand. We recently experienced that with the fish kill over by Napoleon that originated somewhere over east.
Mhm.
But I understand that.
Yeah.
That's why we have an EPA.
Ah,
And you know, I will say our zoning code, the whole conditional use stuff that Nikki went through, we like trees as well. And that is one of the things that as they develop their property, we'll be asking for them to plant trees. Probably past our limit. Becky, let's
Well,
go
you
back over
talk-
here. You, yes, ma'am.
I'm just making sure before I speak.
Yep. Hold the microphone up there close, please.
My name is Faith McGregor. I have lived in this community for just 11 years, so I'm not born and bred here, like many of you. I just think that it seems to me, with over 200 of these centers already in Ohio, that we're just jumping on a bandwagon that a bunch of rich bros are putting out there. And I don't see the need for that kind of immersion into every corner of Ohio for these things. I applaud her looks at the things. I also don't trust that any of those will really be followed and reviewed carefully. No offense.
You don't know Nikki Warnicki, but
I'm not talking about her specifically. I'm talking about the other people that are just going to run ramshod over
they'll cite
whatever she
contracts,
says.
right, ma'am? Let me talk about what little bit I do know about data centers. Big concern out in the industry these days, whether it's Facebook, X, Netflix, all the other streaming stuff that's on television, the healthcare industry, that you get an MRI or a CT scan here, but they want to send that detailed bits of information somewhere else for somebody to look at or compare it with an old one. It's called latency, and how long that information takes to get from point A to point B. Why is it when you watch a movie on Netflix that the words aren't matching the movements in the mouth? That's a whole latency issue, and that's why they want these data centers to store this data. I will say there's discussions on national defense, and you can buy that or not, but I'll tell you who really doesn't want to see these data centers develop, and it's been proven time and time and time again. China. China. They don't want it. They want them there. And I don't want my stuff in China. Mr. Mack.
My name's Chris Mack. I live on Jefferson Avenue here in Defiance. I personally am undecided about whether these data centers are a good idea or a bad idea. I do know it would be great to have an expert here on data centers. That, I mean, everybody's trying, but nobody here is an expert, I don't think, on these centers. The question I have, I've worked at the foundry here on the other side of town many years, and it's hard for me to imagine that these data centers are going to use more electricity, have more impact on the environment, more impact on the water, more impact on the farmland, more impact on the community than that foundry did when it went in. I don't think there's many people in this town would say that that GM Central Foundry powertrain was a bad idea for Defiance. So I think for that reason, I think I'm keeping an open mind on it. But I would really like to hear, somebody who is knowledgeable that can answer these questions. How would a power center compared in all these issues that we're concerned about to what that foundry has done for 50, 60, 70 years? What did we learn? It has certainly not. You would not find many people who would say GM has been bad for Defiance.
We're not here to debate General Motors.
Okay.
And General Motors celebrated their 75th year here a couple years ago, so they've been here quite some time. Let me tell you my thinking. So, one of the things that drove me to the mayor's office, and I've lived here my entire life, 69 years. One of the things that drove me to the mayor's office was I watched over a period of years and years and years, General Motors going from 5,000, 6,000 employees to 4,000 or 5,000 to 3,000 or 4,000. And then I saw Zeller close, and I saw the Swift plant close, and I saw Compo close and Haviland Muffler close and all these places close, but I didn't see anything replacing them. And I'd go to the administration and I'd say, what are we doing about these companies? What are we doing about replacing these things? Because y'all know, if you've been here as long as me, and I'm looking out here and I see people that have been, that so went the automobile industry, so went Defiance, Ohio. And when it was good, we were good. But when it wasn't good, we weren't good. When they were on strike, it wasn't good. And one of the things I've tried to do, what we have tried to work on, is diversify what we brought to Defiance, and we've done that. And a data center would be just a little more diversification. What does it offer? A huge investment, a lot of property that is taxed at full rate. It will offer some jobs, not a lot of jobs, but slow down. I'm acknowledging this. 50 jobs to us is a lot. If you went up to Toledo, or you want to shrink it down a little bit, a Findlay or a Bowling Green, they'd say, it's only 50 jobs. 50 jobs to us is a lot. Plus, it's diverse jobs. It's technical. Yes, it is. And I've read just as much as you. Because I've read it. All right. As I said, we're not going to agree on some things. You have your opinion. I read information that was provided. No, not one source, multiple sources. Nikki showed them. They're right there. Go onto the website, download the information. All right, let's move on. Next question. Sir.
My name is Brent Gherkin. I represent Peace Lutheran Church on State Route 66, just north of Kohl's Department Store. I don't know if you have the map here, but that's okay if you don't.
I know where your church is.
There's a creek or drainage ditch that runs from east from 66 towards the back of our property, then angles to the north into the northwest area of that map area marked off. Was wondering what kind of effect any development's going to have in that ditch as far as increased water runoff. The reason I ask is because 25 years ago, we had a large rain event where that creek flooded, and it was within a couple inches of coming inside the church. And I believe it was flowing over top of 66 a little bit there at that time. It's not a little fuzzy on the memory on that, but I believe the Ohio Department of Transportation has added some more blacktop on the top of that. So we're kind of concerned if that's going to add more water drainage in there, and we have a big rain event on top of that, what's going to happen there?
Can I answer that one?
You want to answer that one?
I do. So as part of the development process and part of their site plan review, they have to abide by storm water regulations, both at the state, federal level, everything that's set. And our city engineer also goes through to make sure that they have their plan that's required as part of that development in place.
Because might that include then like a larger, what's the word I want? That goes underneath the culvert.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Larger culvert or something that goes underneath 66 there then? That might include that?
She's going to look at the whole area. Like, she's going to look at the plan. She's going to tell them what they need to address on their site, what they haven't addressed on their site, go back, do it again, look at this whole area.
Because I know, we've had some big rain events in the area this year, especially like Montpelier had that 7 inches of rain in 2 hours, and that caused a lot of flooding up there. So, I've been through a few of those here over the years, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
It was across 15 in Holiday City, but I just want to say Melinda Sproul, our city engineer, is all over that. It's she had a lot of pet peeves, but that's one of them. She's very diligent on, and as a city, because of our size, we are charged by the EPA to take care of that. Smaller cities can use the EPA. We have to handle ourselves. Thank you. Sir.
Jeff Walter. I actually am in technology, although not data centers. I do cybersecurity. So I'm not here to argue yay or nay on a data center, but I am here to say that being passionate about something is great, right? But we have to approach it from the perspective of being logical and being respectful. So asking questions is perfect. We're asking the right questions, but shouting people down and yelling at each other is not going to get things done. We have to approach it from asking about jobs. That's the right thing to do. There are good jobs at data centers. I've worked in data centers. I've worked with data centers. There are jobs in data centers. Are there a lot? No, there are not a lot of jobs because you don't need a lot of people running a data center. What about water? Absolutely, water's a question. In old data centers, water systems were horrible. In new ones, they're not as bad. Noise is better. Electricity, a lot of them generate their own now. Some of them even put it back in the grid. So those are the questions that have to be asked. The community has to be put first, right? We can't go in blind, but we certainly have to have our eyes open and ask the right questions as a community. And we can't get shortchanged. Right? I'm not saying no. I'm not saying yes. I'm just saying we have to ask the right questions. And we have to be respectful of everybody. That's all I want to say.
What's the purpose of data centers? Thank you. So the
me-
question, the gentleman here asked him, what's the purpose of data centers? I didn't think of you, Jeff.
Yeah, so what happens is, like you had the example of Netflix. So Netflix will put a stack in a local data center, and so it's an instance, and then they can stream out of the local data center, hopefully giving better service within a local area for that. So you could have an AWS point, you could have a Netflix stack, you could have different companies have a point of presence in that data center, various things. You can have, things like that going on in the data center. Then you can have individual companies offering services out of the data center as well, storage, processing power, things like that. It is, absolutely, yeah. Correct. I mean, it depends on the data center. You're 100% correct.
Thanks.
My question is 70 decibel limit. Where's that measured at? Is it measured
Oh.
at the point of creation? In other words,
No,
is
it's
it
measured from the property line.
from whose property? From the property line of the data center?
Yes.
All right.
So it should be higher than 70 past that property line.
Because I really question. I've trying to do a lot of research the last week or so. Loudon, Virginia, they compare it to having a helicopter over your house 24 hours a day.
Okay.
So
We did.
I have
we
never
did look up
measured
a
a.
lot
I've
of
never
stuff.
measured a helicopter. I get life flight over my house occasionally, and I know you can certainly hear it when it goes over.
You can feel it. yeah.
Thankfully, it doesn't stay there very long. But
So we would measure it from the property line. So it can be whatever it is up to that property line.
so if
It has
if
to
we
be
go measure
70
and
or
we get
lower.
75, we tell them to shut down. In other words,
They have to deal with it.
They're violating the ordinance. Yeah.
All
okay.
set, Mr. Cohart?
I guess.
Thank you. Slacker. Go ahead.
Okay, my name's Connie, and I have a lot of questions. Some are in response to some other things that were said. So first of all, I'm assuming this is going to be off of Elliott Road, like behind Menards, if I'm understanding correctly. So
That is a site
For
that's
sure.
been proposed.
yeah,
Again, ma'am,
I got it.
I should have wore a shirt.
Rotary.
We haven't talked to data centers. I
I'm
am a
almost going to give you the
Rotarian.
four-way test for Rotary
Yep,
people.
yep.
So first of all, so I live very nearby that. I'm more than 200 feet, so I'm certainly not going to get notified. But I'm assuming this is supposed to be on city water, wherever it's at,
Yes, ma'am. If it's
Bec-
in the city,
which
worth
is the,
mentioning because I heard it earlier, they're required to use city water. They can't put in a well.
okay. So again, I live nearby, very nearby, and so I'm worried about the constant noise, light, sound, because that can get super annoying. So like here, to follow up on the last gentleman, if they are not in compliance, if we have to report an offense, how quick would action get taken, and how quick would they have to respond to abide by the rule?
We have Nikki, who is the zoning commissioner, and then we also have Kyle Crocker, who enforces on the nuisance side.
Yeah, nuisance.
Good people, they'll follow up right away. Dealing through the data center bureaucracy will be a little more difficult, but these guys are bulldogs. They won't let a lie.
Yeah. So the other question is, what exact? I'm just asking, what exactly would have to happen for this not to get put into defiance?
Well,
I'm just
council's discussed a moratorium. It's my understanding there's petitions that have been filed banning data centers.
Okay.
That would go to a vote of
Count,
somebody's interrupting me here.
vote at
That would
council.
go to a vote of,
council?
of the city.
Oh.
City, not
don't-
outside the
okay.
city. Okay. No, not a vote of council. Vote of the elected.
Go on the ballot. That's what I want to
Yeah,
make sure, like
go
what
on
you
the
meant by
ballot.
vote.
Thank you, Kim. Yep.
Yeah. So, and again, like 2012, we had the drought. So, yeah, I suffered from that. I had to get water out of my cistern because of the drought. So, I think, we suffer some stuff around here locally that could be definitely something to be aware of. And this is just another thing. So, I've been around here for a long time. What about, and I'm just saying, if we were to get something, why don't we look at, and again, I'm just saying nothing to get anybody upset about, but, I don't know how much, like General Motors Plant 1, the main plant, how much that's even in use. Could anything get upscaled, renovated to facilitate something like that? I mean, do we need to have a certain
So
size of it?
you're asking to reuse a site that's a brownfield site.
And I don't know what all those
which
are.
has been brought up. We've started research with that. I know the state of Ohio is looking at that as well. So that is something that people are considering.
Yeah, because there's plenty of parking
Yep, absolutely.
there. And there's railroad tracks there.
We've talked over the years, quite a few years, with General Motors. We've offered to work with the state of Ohio to demolish Plant 1.
Mm.
So then you do have a green space or a brownfield, but a green space where something could possibly develop because there is a lot of electricity out there.
And you already
So
got the thoroughfares. So.
They don't seem to be too interested in that right now.
Mm.
They could have their General Motors. They could have a plan. We don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I think those are my questions. Thank you so much.
Mr. Posey,
Hello.
how you feeling?
Oh, don't get old.
Okay. It's not me that had a birthday. It's her.
Hey, I thought that was his daughter.
Yeah.
My concern is the well-being of our nature, our community, health issues, the animals, humans. I was in Nam and I come back and I'm facing all my buddies dying on me because of contamination and everything. But I'm worried. I'm worried that we're sitting here trying to make a decision, but you won't be in it forever. And maybe somebody down the road is going to change all the regulations. Okay. And I'm worried about my kids, my grandkids, and my great-grandkids, and my wife. Her boyfriend ain't ready for her yet, but that's my favorite.
All right, Ms.
So,
Posey,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yeah.
Thank you for your service. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
We have all of those same concerns, Mr. Posey.
Hi, my name's Chris Boink. A couple questions. I think you've kind of touched on this a little bit. I think I'm pretty ignorant of what happens when something like this violates a code.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the process that something like a data center would have to go through if we did find out they build this, they say they're going to be compliant, but then they end up not being. What happens?
So the first step is going to be the letter that comes from my office. I'm going to work with the city attorney. We're going to get this figured out. If they don't abate that situation and do what they're supposed to do, then we go to the next step, which could end up in court. It could end up, in any of those places. There could be fines that would be paid. It just depends on what they're violating and which code they're violating.
Sure.
What the what we take it to court for.
Yeah, I think I wonder
Could it be
about
a long process?
yeah,
Possibly.
sure.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
And
lie.
with the ability to go through the courts and
Yeah.
kind of like slow things
Yep.
down and get stays, there's yeah.
hmm
Um I don't yeah, I'm wondering about the consequences. Like, is there a way to shut it down if it ends up being more destructive than we think, or a way to make it not something that's just a fine that these companies are more than happy to
Right.
pay.
I think if it's excessive abuse, yeah, absolutely, the court's going to shut it down. I mean,
Look,
but
it has that things like that have
I
happened
don't.
before.
I mean, yes, I mean
Sure.
I've read stories about it, but
Okay.
this is new to me. This part's new. So,
Yeah.
and the actual, enforcement part,
Sure.
So very good question, very legitimate question.
The second question I think is really more for you, Nikki. In looking in, I'm sure you've done a ton of research into this whole thing. Can you talk a little bit about? I mean, I'm hoping that you have looked into communities that have been pretty adversely affected by data centers. Um, yeah, what are some of the things that you've learned from that research?
I would say one of the main ones that I looked at was Loudon, Virginia, because that's like one of the biggest hubs, right? And when they originally started, it was by right zoning, and since then, and other communities as well, they let them come in, they did all these things. Now they have so many that they've gone back and they've rewritten parts of their code.
Mm.
They have certain areas that they've identified where they're willing to put more, and that's it. So just kind of reading their story a little bit. I haven't had time to really focus on it a lot because I was trying to figure out. I was kind of under the gun to figure out what we were going to do here. But reading that and realizing, they've had this since 2015, and they've already changed from by right zoning to having to be in these districts to having these regulations written to being specific because they have so many of them now. So they've learned. Um,
Sure.
something we're
Yeah.
still really, and the other part of this is we can change the zoning code and have these items in place, and we can keep doing our research and looking into all
Even
these
after
things.
they've been built?
I mean, it's not going to affect the ones after they've been
Yeah.
built, but we can learn from it
Sure.
too and adapt.
Yeah.
We can change our zoning code at any time. You just have to go to council and
Yeah.
present it.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
yep, all good questions.
Ryan? Go ahead. It's her turn.
Hi.
Hi.
I have been listening to you continuously say that one of your big reasons to why a possibility for the AI data center is to bring jobs, to bring opportunities, to bring an economic value to the city of Defiance. I obviously am a younger person, have not lived here nearly as long as a lot of people here. But when I look at the group, that is something that I notice, something that I've noticed for a very long time as someone who has lived here my life. I'm only 26. But most of my friends are leaving. Nobody wants to stay here. Part of that is the economic reasons. My age and a lot of people younger than me, they have done a lot of research. I understand that you have as well, but there there isn't much that's going to be brought with an AI data center. Yes, 50 jobs may sound like a lot for the city of Defiance. Walmart alone employs significantly more than that. I'm not saying that 50 jobs isn't a lot, but in the retrospect, how much is that really bringing to our community? If people like me are wanting to stay here and live here for the rest of my life, those 50 jobs aren't going to do much when it comes to the other aspect of it, the negative things that come with the water, the electricity, all the economic unfortunate things that happen with that. So I don't think that it's fair for you to say that, oh, this is an economic opportunity for Defiance, considering that people are leaving because of things like this.
Okay.
And I just want it to be known that
I-
it's going to continue to be this way if we
think
don't
50
do something.
jobs is a nice little
It-
economic development. project.
Absolutely. But other
We
things
will hold
in that
them. We will hold them to a wage that they're telling us. What I'm reading is that they will pay, which is right around $100,000 a year, and that's a pretty nice wage.
But what I'm saying is,
And
so
we'll hold them to that.
yes,
Yep.
I understand, but with that a plot of land, when you compare the plot of land that we're talking about currently, compared to the entirety of the shopping district of Defiance, it is roughly the same size, right? So think about how many jobs we currently have in the same space of Defiance right now. If we were to develop something different, I'm not saying that we shouldn't develop. Period. I'm just saying that there are better things that we should be considering instead of an AI data center to keep people coming to Defiance, not leaving.
Is there any chance that if a data center would site here, that some other industry might site here as well because of the fact that they would have access to a data center?
Again, I can't really speak on a hypothetical about what business would or would not come here. I'm just saying that size wise, if you compare the city of Defiance, how much space we have and how many jobs have been brought by just what we currently have, compared to the space that we're currently talking about, way more businesses than just maybe an AI data center with a couple extra, businesses coming into town.
Okay.
That's not going to be nearly enough space wise alone. And personally, as someone who just bought a house here 2 years ago, if this AI data center comes here, me and my entire family are leaving. We're not staying here. I want to stay here. I don't want to leave. My family is here. My extended family, everyone is here, but I can't live here if I know that the decisions being made by my officials like you are going to negatively affect me, my children, and my grandchildren going forward.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Hello, my name is Melody Seals. I'm 23 years old. I've lived here basically my whole entire life. I'm kind of piggyback off what that young lady said. The quality of life in Defiance is already rapidly decreasing with the rise of flock cameras, the rise of cost of living.
There are no flock cameras.
There is at least one that we know of that is recorded here in Defiance County, 5 alone in Henry County. 84.5% of all wages for every job in Ohio cannot single-handedly afford to feed or take care of your family at all. Our electric bills, sky high. Our food isn't being regulated anymore. And now we want to pollute our air and our water. That not only affects you and I, but our environment and our wildlife, ignoring the fact that it takes roughly 1.8 billion gallons annually for just a medium-sized data center, which, okay, sounds like a lot, right? It is, but that's comparable to a town of 50,000. Mind you, all of Defiance County is roughly 38,000 people, so that's more than all of our water currently to cover all of our clean water. So I understand the closed loop system as well. That does make sense. We're not going to be putting it back into our environment, things like that. That is good. I agree. But where are we going to get that water in the first place? Well, with the closed system, apparently they're not going to be dumping it back in, but where are we going to be getting that? Yeah, in general, yeah.
Whenever a company comes here, obviously we talk to them about water usage, and we also talk to them about their discharge. And they're required to tell us what's going to be in their waste stream. Mark Leonard and Kevin Connor and his team at the wastewater plant analyze all that. Sometimes companies are required to do what we call pre-treatment. That is, they treat that on site before they discharge it into our sanitary sewer system. And then we treat it at the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay. Next point is we talk about the 70 decibel level for the noise pollution. Yeah, it's casual office talk. That's all it is, right? It's not too loud. Okay, but you're not understanding that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days within an entire year that data center will be running. And that alone, chronic environmental noise elevates stress hormones, disrupts cardiovascular health, and impairs cognitive development to our children. So, and to continue to talk about Loudoun County, Virginia, because a lot of us have brought that up so far, So we've had Harvard researchers out there. A single data center from there causes up to $90 million annually in healthcare costs. Where are we getting that money and who's paying for it? Just like our electric bills. You know, new data centers going to come in. They're going to need to create new transformers, more power lines, etc. Who in turn does that affect? Us, because the consumer, the customer, is going to have to pay our electric bill sky high. And I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people around here, our electric bill is already sky high through the roof.
Can we talk about electricity for just a minute?
Yeah.
So what I've been reading, because Toledo Edison can't provide the electricity that a data center would probably need, so they've talked about self-generation. Do you know what self-generation is?
Yeah.
Describe it to me, please.
Why don't you describe it to me? He's trying to put me on the spot for what? Like, I'm 23 years old. How old are you, sir?
69.
69. Okay. I digress.
Self-generation is they will have their own turbine generators on site to generate their own electricity. There's an opportunity that they may generate some excess electricity, which they would put back on the grid, making more electricity available. Monday at Rotary, I talked to a gentleman that's part of an association, and he mentioned that one of his associates, part of his association, is from West Virginia, and out of curiosity, she had read some of what was going on in Defiance, Ohio, and so she called him and she said, "Hey, I just want you to know where we are. We've had some additional data centers built. Our water costs have gone down because they've improved our water plant and our distribution system, and they've paid the bill on that. And also, they've helped out on electricity, built more infrastructure, built more substations, and our electrical rates have also gone down." That's what was shared with me.
Okay, but I do not want AI's blood money. Let me make that clear. I don't care if anything becomes cheaper. You can make whatever type of regulations you want. It doesn't ever going to affect the long-term permanent effects that it will leave on our environment and for all of our future generations. Let me just ask all of you, if you are in support of it, yes. Once it's to one point of no return, our environment, what are you going to do with your families? Are you going to go and move to another city to where their city council had the balls to say no to these billionaires, to say no to their money and go live there safely? Or are you going to reap the consequences of your actions when we have no clean resources left in our town?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. You're good. Here.
My name is Rebecca Kirkland. I'm from Ayersville. So I stand here representing my parents who have lived in Ayersville since my grandparents since the 60s and the outlying townships. So the water from Defiance City gives water to Highland Township and Ayersville. Those decisions were made long before I was a property owner there and out of my control. Also, I think the City of Defiance water has about a 16-mile radius, so it affects many communities that are outside of the city limits. So I'm here today to represent the people who live in those areas, to consider that the city represents us as well. And right now, my water bill is about 6% of my income. And according to the National Federation of Credit Counseling, our utilities should be 5 to 10% of our income. But my water bill alone is 6%. So those outlying communities are paying significantly more money for just water. So if you put our water in jeopardy, or our water sources in jeopardy, the City of Defiance has made it unavailable for us to have other water sources out there in those outlying communities. We can't save ourselves. We can't find water from another place. We're dependent on the city. So if you increase our water costs even further, the people are going to be run out of the community because they're not going to be able to afford it. I wasn't even aware of how high our water costs were until my daughter went and attended BGSU for 4 years. And a house full of 4 girls with 2 washing machines and 2 full bathrooms paid a third of the amount of water per month that I pay in Ayersville. So Defiance sincerely needs to take those things into consideration before they put any of us in the outlying communities in jeopardy.
Okay, thank you.
Is it on? I'm Rebecca Roop. I could use my 2 full minutes just to say how much I appreciate our representatives. I spend, I don't know, like 45 minutes to 3 hours a week on the phone with our city council members. I just spoke with Erica Wolitzer at length on the phone today. She was extremely helpful. If you think this is your only chance to say something or to make your voice heard, know that that is not true. I have never had a city council member dodge a direct question from me. I have never had someone turn down an opportunity to answer a question with clarity. Nikki has worked extraordinarily hard and I know she was nervous and she's done a very good job. Our city really does care about us. All these nefarious things on Facebook where it's, oh, they're going to pocket a bunch of money and this, that, and the other. It's just not true. I think everyone does want to make a wise decision. And to clarify, I'm extraordinarily anti-data center. My name's all over the newspaper about it. But being anti-data center should not be an excuse to disrespect our government. They're working very hard. Working very hard. But I don't want to use my 2 full minutes. If I can, I do have a question. The conditional use permits list that if something doesn't benefit the general welfare, that we can deny it, right? And I spoke a little bit with another representative about how to say no to a project if we just decide we don't want it, we just straight up don't want it, and that there are very limited reasons that we can do that. A lot of people are nervous that if a developer were to come in, they could sue because they already bought the land at 3 times the market value. They already got the bid on what it would take to update the water treatment center. They already had the land emergency annexed in June of what, they already jumped through all these hoops. So they essentially feel that they are owed this permit, even if it has a lot of hoops to jump through. So how do we decide if the whole city's against it and we've said something general welfare, can we stop a project or are we essentially locked in?
I will. Let me just say, I don't know that we've gotten any recently, although I think Erica knows our position. I'll bet we've had a half a dozen or so inquiries to site a battery plant here. Everything we were reading about batteries and the products and the discharge, wastewater discharge, didn't really appeal to us. So we just deny it. We just tell them, sorry, we're not interested. And it never goes any further than that. And I think Erica knows that. She could get those leads now, but she knows our stance on anything battery. You hate turning that stuff away, but we, your administration, don't think battery plants, battery manufacturers are a good idea for us.
Do you write that into code or is that on a case-by-case basis?
It's just a policy. Doesn't need it in a code. That's just how we feel right now.
But if your administration were to change, someone else could bring
Sure.
battery to us. Okay.
Well, they could, yeah. Sure they could.
Okay.
I would say, for example, if we sat down with them and they said, we need this much water, right, for example, and we're like, we can't provide that. That's way over what, we're already at this limit and that's going to take us clear over. Unless they're going to pay for all of that infrastructure, that's a reason to deny them because we can't service them. So that's on that list of conditional use requirements. Like if you can't.
So say they needed 3 million gallons of water a day. No way. Can't do it.
We're already at.
We could upgrade our water plant. It would cost, the rough estimate we have, Mrs. Roop, is about $240 million, and that's a year old, so it's probably 260 now. It takes 7 years. From the time we start the design of that plant, go through the permitting process, working with the EPA, run new pipes out to provide, because we can't provide that much water to the north side. Or anyway, the only place we got a lot of water is going out east, because General Motors at one time used a lot of water. Not so much anymore. But it would take 7 years.
Well, I think just to speak to that very specific number, $240 million to upgrade the water if we were to run a pipeline out there and service a data center, that's the kind of very specific information that people are realizing could be attached to preliminary plans. Maybe there's not a site plan, maybe we haven't been approached by a data center, but there's not nothing happening. There's definitely something happening. Someone is doing due diligence in order to determine whether Defiance is a good fit for a data center. And so we're trying to decide, do we want one? It's not that we're all speculating and we're crazy and we don't believe you and you need a shirt. It's that there are pieces of the puzzle falling into place and putting Defiance in a position where someone might feel that they are owed a data center if they've jumped through enough hoops already. Normally, if we were to deny somebody a permit or something, they would have already bought the land and already done all of this research. You jump through enough hoops, that spoke to the language in that ordinance that you hadn't read, where they say, oh, it's an economic hardship now. You have to give me this. I'm going to sue or I'm going to whatever because I've invested this much already. And so give me my data. And that's what happened in Saline, Michigan and in Urbana. And we know that that's a possibility. And that's why people are nervous. So are we doing anything to prevent from getting in one of those situations? Because I think a moratorium is a good idea. Is there anything else that we're planning on to prevent ourselves from being in that vulnerable position?
The zoning code adjustments.
I mean, a lot of that stuff's in place for some of those things. If you have suggestions,
The
I'm
noise
willing
is
to
in
hear
there,
'em.
the vibration's in there, but the community benefit is not in there. It should be.
That's the other question I had. In terms of the decommissioning, do we have it written in where they would need to pay for that, not just submit a plan for it, but that they would have to eat the cost
We
and
would
not
write
the
that
community?
in there. Yes. We would.
It's it's not written in there yet. That's something that's being proposed.
Okay. If everybody couldn't hear that concern, he said that the LLCs that usually file these things then go bankrupt instead and pass the costs on to consumers when they can't meet those decommissioning bonds. And that these are our concerns. That
Yeah,
you know,
all
this-
valid, very
Shift that
valid.
way now.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mack.
Do you want, she hasn't got his. I've got people making their second lap.
Okay.
Oh, they're letting you guys go. Go ahead. All right. My name's Barb Neese. There are 3 points I would like to point out. With one thing, the data centers that existed 30 to 40 years ago that now surround Columbus, there's 200 of them. Those data centers are not the same as a hyperscale. It's a whole different animal. And that's what makes them so environmentally different. You take a place, they can encompass several of them, 1,000 acres. Van Wert is losing 1,000 acres of productive farm ground to a data center. I don't know how a hyperscale. That's point one. Point two, and I'm not fighting you on this. Just 2 weeks ago, House Bill 15 at our state legislature passed. Now, it's a big bill. There's a lot in it. It applies to data centers. The interesting thing that I caught is they have the power to override communities when it comes to ordinances, meaning no matter what we say, our representatives in Columbus can say, no, that's not how it's going to go. You're going to do it this way. I'm going to give you an example. Hilliard, Ohio has, I think, 1 to 3, I was just reading about this, 1 to 3 hyperscale data centers. Many people are not happy right now. When they brought them in, they thought they would have some control. Because of House Bill 15, they are now getting a cellular reactor in their community, one of the largest in North America. That's a fact. You need to research it. I don't understand how they operate. It's fairly new technology, but their community had no input because of House Bill 15, because of the clause. Ohio can override our concerns. That's point two. Point three is this. Our mayor talks about the EPA protecting us. It's very important we watch what our legislatures in our state house are doing because that impacts us probably more than what we are doing, because they can do things we don't like. Here's an example, and this just happened. Our EPA, that is supposed to protect our waterways, filed for data centers only a special permit. This happened within the past 2 weeks. And what they wanted in this special permit, only for data centers, and I'm going to try and get this right because I'm pulling some from memory, which isn't very good. This is what they wanted. They wanted a general permit only for data centers to discharge cooling runoffs into lakes and streams. A special permit so it wouldn't be treated the same as other industries. They wanted to discharge boiler blowdown. I don't know what that is. I think it's some way of cleaning these hyperscale data centers, so they would not have to follow industry standard. And mind you, this is our EPA that wanted this. They wanted to discharge condensation into our lakes and streams, our EPA. Fortunately for us, we had some very brave representatives, and 7,000 Ohioans stepped up to this and said, no way, it's not going to happen. Great, thank God. However, things change. Things can change on a dime. So don't think your EPA is going to protect us. And also, I have one question for our law director. I think it would be...
Ma'am.
Okay.
She is brand new.
Oh, okay.
She's not even a week into this.
Yeah. But why don't you ask your question, because it might...
Yeah, ask the question.
My question would be, because, you know, a lot of people are assuming we can protect ourselves, she better dig into that House Bill 15. It's specific on data centers, and the state can override us, and we need to be aware of that, because we may get a lot of things like Hilliard. People don't want that huge cellular reactor in their backyard, and it is. It's right across from a school.
Okay. All right. Okay. 15. All right. Let me talk about 6 weeks or so ago. I was in Columbus for the Ohio Municipal League Mayor's Conference, and there was a panel. It was one of the biggest reasons I wanted to go. And quite honestly, I wish I would have had some of my city council folks with me, but I've shared with them what was just. So there was a panel, 3 individuals: the economic development of Hilliard, the economic development for Union County, which is where the Honda plant is, and a representative from the data center industry. And we had a lively discussion. But I will say this: the economic development director for Hilliard, and Union County for that matter, could not say enough good things about their data centers and the contributions that it was making to their communities. Couldn't say enough good things. So that was them. I will say that the lady, and I almost felt sorry for her, but not really, because I agreed, was just attacked by the mayors because of the fact that the data center industry hasn't gotten out ahead of this. Right after I became mayor, Jeff Leonard took me to a conference where he was talking about, you know, what do you do in a crisis? What do you do in a crisis situation? And it talked about getting out of it, get the information out there right away, tell your story, tell the truth, return phone calls and all that. We've always tried to do that. But the data center people were attacked viciously at that meeting. That's going to get repeated at the end of September, October in the statewide OML meeting. I'm excited about it, so we'll see. But I was getting a different report, ma'am, out of Hilliard, to be honest with you. Don't want to debate it with you. You shared what you said. I just wanted to share what I had heard as well. We're going to let this guy go, Becky. You're very nice.
My name's Patrick McDougall. I live in Napoleon, Ohio. I've been following all this stuff since I was a senior in high school. Do you know the World Economic Forum, United Nations, all their agendas and programs? You are already in a data center. Genetically, you have a twin. They follow you, they block you, they watch you, they listen to you. Even when your phone's off, your TV's off, your appliances are listening to you. You're in a digital prison. They're going to put you in a 15-minute city. And that 15 minutes is how far you can travel by walking, not driving. That's what the data centers are really for. How much have they told you they're going to pay the city?
We've not talked to a data center, sir.
Oregon, Ohio is going to get $10 million a year for the city, $10 million for the schools. You're going to be prostitutes. You're going to be a prostitute. And in 30 years, they're going to clean out the building. Like I said, they're going to file bankruptcy like Hanford did up in Washington. They're still cleaning the nuclear waste out of there. And they won't be held liable.
Okay. Thank you for your time, sir. Becky.
I really hope that's for me. Teasing. A couple points I want the city to think about. I recently carried on a really good conversation with a city council person, and they stated that if we didn't let a data center come in, that we would be sued. And then I start reading some other articles that people have written, and they have got some good points that, and it was brought out in the article in the Crescent as well, that if we don't let a specific developer develop that land with a data center, that they could sue the city. It was all in the Crescent. I'm not going to look at anybody. He has nothing to do with it. My point is, if we don't let a data center come in, can we be sued? You just said that we didn't let a battery factory come in.
We get leads.
Did they
Becky.
sue us?
We get leads most of the time. They come from regional growth part, regional part of Jobs Ohio that we work with. Sometimes they come directly from Jobs Ohio. We just tell them we're not interested. No, they can't sue us.
That's my point.
But not.
I think your question is, you're asking if we do an outright ban, could we be sued? Yes, probably.
That's
that
my
happens
point.
everywhere.
I have a council person telling me we can be sued. I have another person telling me that if we don't let a specific developer develop that for a data center, we can be sued. You're telling me no. Nikki
He's
says
telling you
kinda.
no on the leads that come in.
Right.
They're just
And I
asking, would
understand
you be
that.
interested? No, we're not interested in those.
You ask about a
You're
battery
asking
plant.
specifics.
We're
So,
not interested.
so
They go on to somebody else. They're building battery plants.
they are. So my next point is, with this much discussion, wouldn't it be in the city's best interest just to put it to a vote? Wouldn't that alleviate a lot of headache for you, a lot of headache for you, a lot of headache for developers? And we know how Facebook and newspapers and media goes. You're not getting the same information out there. If I can't get the
That's
same
my biggest
information,
gripe, Becky. Sure, we can put it to a vote, but there's so much misinformation. It's sickening. It's absolutely sickening that chickens will quit laying eggs, cows will quit producing milk.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's sickening. This lady made an interesting comment about the light pollution in crops. Wasn't that
It is
you?
proven.
Yeah. Okay.
It was I got proof.
I mean, but
I do
you know,
have proof.
we regulate lighting. We do.
And honestly, I'm on the
It's
fence.
lumens. You measure lumens.
I'm on the fence. I think Defiance does need some new stuff out there, and it would bring in more business, more restaurants. We might finally get that darn Red Lobster. But on the other hand, the tree hugger in me is saying, don't you dare. Don't you dare. No. Anywho, so I really think it would be in everybody's best interest just to put it to a stinking vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Hold on, I'm not done with you yet. My last point, Nikki, we talked about the noise, the pollution, this fly that's attacking me. So if Jamie lives next to a data center and the noise is just, you can tell it's above 70 decibels.
She calls me and we go out and we
How does
start
she
the
know?
process.
How does she know it's over 70 decibels? She
She
doesn't have
calls
one of
me
those
and
handy dandy meters.
She calls me to complain. Just like this city is full of a lot of complainers. Trust me, they all call the city.
So
And we go out.
So
And we go out.
somebody's gonna go out.
Yep.
With that handy dandy meter, and in the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, check to make sure that it's not too loud.
Correct.
And then how long will it take to shut that down?
That's the part I'm not sure of. That's
The damage will already
we
be done.
we haven't been there yet, right? So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I know the process. I just don't
So
know the timing of the process.
Do we even want to go there then?
What's the noise level when a train goes through Defiance?
Way too loud. I hear it every
How
night.
many trains go through Defiance a day, Chief? A lot.
A lot.
I don't live by a train track.
I do, and a lot.
I live a long ways away, but they come right up to Tiffin River.
Yeah. And it's not constant.
So my last point is I don't think we're going to be able to protect the environment and our infrastructure enough to warrant letting one come in. Honestly.
We got one over there.
Hi, I'm Sandy Herman. I've lived here in Defiance since '89. And kind of some of that talk here with all the rumors, I guess, all the misinformation, all the stuff that's being posted all over, I have to say I'm a little confused. So I followed the timeline and I heard everything, could follow the PowerPoint. But I guess my question is, just for clarification for me, is kind of like, what came first? Did the idea go to the zoning to say, look at this? Or did a developer come first and say, we'd like to put in a data center on this property that we just bought? Because again, that's what I've heard. The property's already been bought. I'll just, like I said, I've heard all that. That's why I'm up here, because I need some clarification. So I followed all the zoning and everything, and that was a good presentation. I read it beforehand. So my question just is was that done because somebody approached the city, or was it done because to look at if somebody did?
It was, on my part, it was my concern as the zoning commissioner was watching what was happening around us, specifically Archbold, right? Because that was blowing up a lot of people. A lot of the same stuff was happening there. And I was like, the annexation went through. You start to put things together. So my concern early on was, can we address this in our zoning code by putting this in here to protect us should one ever come?
Okay, so what I'm hearing, just
But
so
I'm
I'm
not always
clear,
included in every meeting. So
that happened in preparation for somebody coming.
that was my concern, that somebody was going to come here and be able to just walk right in and nobody would know, and they'd have site plan review and it would be done.
Okay, I follow all that. So nobody's come yet.
I have not had a pre-application meeting or any applications turned in for a data center specifically.
Okay. Well,
That doesn't mean that we haven't, like the mayor said, we haven't talked to a developer to ask questions, like who is asking us questions.
okay. And the only reason I'm just kind of
Yeah, no, I get it.
pressing it is
Yep.
that I have heard differently.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm
You're
asking.
are
it.
you asking, did the city go out and
No.
try to bring one here?
No,
Or,
I'm
okay.
just asking,
Okay.
did someone approach? Okay, and you're saying,
Well, we've been asked questions on water usage and different things, but that happens a lot with a lot of different developers. But they're doing their due diligence. We'll get calls
okay,
from.
so then what? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
didn't
you're
mean to
fine. You're
cut-
fine.
No, I just want to be clear
Mhm.
that nobody's bought property. That's what I'm hearing. That someone has bought property to put a data center. So now we're looking at what we need to do when that happens. That's what I'm hearing. Now, whether or not that's correct or not, I don't know. That's why
So
I'm
there
posing.
there is a company that owns a lot of that property, like 300 acres north of Coles, and has annexed it into the city. Like we
Should-
pay attention to those larger areas, right? Like what do they want to do there? But
And that's what they want to do. They want to build a data center
we've heard
there.
the same rumors you have. I mean,
So you're
we ha-
you're
I
saying
don't-
no.
They might. But
they might.
We
but
don't know.
We don't know.
We
We
don't
haven't
know.
talked to a data center.
Oh, I don't.
He's here.
We don't know. Is that it shows the buildings?
It shows the whole map.
It
and
shows the buildings?
property.
No, it doesn't show the buildings.
Not the building. It doesn't show a data center, but it shows the property.
Right. We're
Yeah.
aware of that. That's what Nikki's talking about. That 300 acres.
Right.
Hmm.
We're aware of that. There's also other sites in Defiance that there's enough acreage that could be developed as a data center. Could. It could also be developed as a tire plant. It could be developed as a slaughterhouse.
In the real world, we know what's going on. Come on, we know. We know, right?
We have other economic development
I know,
projects in the pipeline other than data centers.
Okay.
We do.
But that's what we're talking about today is a data center, right?
Mhm.
No, but that's okay.
We'll try to explain later.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
She's new too.
Go
I'm
ahead.
not new.
You're new to the line.
I am new to the line. Hi, I'm Kathy. And just for reference, as a few people have said before, two things can be true. I highly respect you, Mike, and you know that, and I adore you. But I am not in favor of the data center at all. But I'll tell you why. Okay, there's a few reasons. Number one, I'm very, very concerned about the health and well-being of the people that I so dearly love. And you know me, I advocate, and you know that I advocate and I stand up for children and the community, and I do a lot of work in the community. And so I've done a lot of research on this subject, and there's just a lot of things that I'm having a hard time with. And so, number one, like families in this community are stretched far. We really are. I mean, and especially if I speak personally in my own family, I've not worked in the last year, going back to work soon, but my husband's been carrying the weight of our family for the last year. We're paying $9,000 a year in health insurance right now. $9,000 a year, thank you, to cover our family. So, electricity bills, everything's gone up. And so my concern is, what is this going to do for, electricity, utility bills, water bills? And I know that you're saying that these things could go down, but how can you ensure that to my family and the families in this room that that's actually going to happen? Because what you're telling me is that who you talk to about these things is developers, and you're talking to other mayors, and you're talking to people in communities in government, and that's great. I mean, not that I don't respect those people, but I want to hear from residents. I want to hear from residents in communities. That's what I want to hear from. I want to hear from the people that are paying those bills. I want to know that they're going to tell me that their bills have gone down and that their family isn't affected by those things. So if we're going to have like another forum and you have somebody come in that I would love for those people to, I would love for a data center representative to come in and talk to us. That would be awesome.
I
But
think
I'd
that
also
will,
love for
that
a
will
resident.
eventually happen.
Yeah, but I would also love for residents to come in and talk to us honestly about what's really going on, because I've watched a lot of videos, I've read a lot of articles and research from Harvard to the University of Michigan to like all sorts of things, and that's not really what I'm getting. That's not what I'm reading. That's
So
not exactly what's happening. So like I need to know for my family, but I've also read research about, you know, the health things that are going on, like everything from cancer to respiratory. Like I have a grandson that's going to live a mile and a half from that site and he has asthma. Like that
So he already
bothers
has
me.
asthma.
He already does.
Okay.
But so it
Are
it
you
is-
blaming the data center?
no, no,
Oh.
no. I'm saying the research shows. Come on, Mike.
Well, this
No,
is
but
what
I'm
saying.
I'm saying the
This is what I-
research
do
shows
you
that it
realize
makes
the
it
data-
worse.
The data center was accused for the fish kill.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the air pollution they're saying would make that worse, but they're also saying it can cause birth defects and miscarriages, and there's all sorts of things, right? Like there's just the research.
You've made your point.
Okay, but the other thing I wanted to touch on was when the gentleman was talking about GM, about the GM plant, and he was saying, like, how do we know, it was good for the community, right? So when we're talking about health for GM, what happened is they learned. They learned from the things, right? So there were things that were happening in those plants, research, right? They learned that those environments weren't good and they changed things, right? So, but when things happen, like what all the people were saying about like if wildlife dies and groundwater, whatever happens, the adverse effects, if those things happened, we can't take it back. Like you can't change that, right? So in those plants, when people were adversely affected by those things, when health problems happened, because they did, like they changed those environments, they did, but they couldn't take it back what already happened.
Right.
Correct?
Okay. You asked for a testimonial. Our son Christopher lives in New Albany with his wife Molly and their 2 children, our grandchildren. New Albany. You know where New Albany is?
Mhm.
Suburb of Columbus.
My daughter lives in Columbus.
There's a lot of data centers in New Albany. He's lived there 15 years or so. He's moved around Columbus a little bit. But he's worked for Abercrombie his entire career. And so I asked him a couple months ago, I said, Chris, talk to me about your data centers in New Albany. He said, Dad, I don't even know where they are. I don't know where they are. I know they're here. I hear about them, but I don't know where they are. He lives there. He lives there.
Well, okay, so Columbus is a large city, right? So, I mean, I don't know. My daughter lives in Grandview.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
He's
but
probably lived there too. Like I said,
yeah, right. I mean, I guess being Defiance is a smaller community. I mean, there are people, it's going to be right in their backyard. I mean, it's going to be very close. So that's my concern.
Okay. Thank you. Ma'am?
Okay, so part of what she said, the fact is, EPA has these rules, stuff gets tore up, and it's big whoops, and you can afford to pay for that whoops, whereas the rest of us are still suffering from it. We don't all have money, and that's good when you say there's rules and there's rules and there's rules, but they don't suffer. They pay a fine, and shit's damaged then, And just like GM, it was bad when it came here in the 50s, but they evolved. So when I said we learned from that, we did learn from that. We saw them evolve. They learned. So do we want to make a mistake again and learn some more and get hurt in the process?
So much of what you're citing,
You know what I'm saying?
much of what you're
Comparing
citing,
that.
in my opinion, some of these folks have excited, yelled at me and all that, which is fine. It's fine.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to say I've never been to a city council meeting ever in my entire life because I have complete faith and trust in you guys with my best interests at heart up until now. But it's true. Like, that's not my place. I'm not qualified for all that.
I appreciate that.
So,
but the data center industry has evolved as well. They recognize the noise. They don't like paying light bills and water bills any more than you folks. So they've developed new systems for conserving water, which is the closed loop system we talked about. The chips that are manufactured today use less electricity and run cooler, so the cooling process. The chips that are developed 5 years from now will run cooler yet and use electricity. 10 years from now, cooler still and less electricity.
But the damage may already be done before they get to that point.
But we're
and he's
already
not going to suffer.
past most
I
of
am.
that high water usage.
It's not. Just
Anything else, ma'am?
That's it.
Okay.
Nikki or Mike, in the slides that you presented, one of the last things was you said that the city would vote on them. What do you mean the city will vote on them? Where you show all the different steps, you know, there's like 7
rezoning
steps.
maybe.
So that would be city council.
City council.
Right there.
So the approval will be city council.
So it's the council that votes on it, not
Yeah.
general public.
Mm. That's for site specific development. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mike Armstrong, Redwood Drive, Defiance. Mike, just to touch base a little bit, when you talked about the battery plant, wasn't that going to be at GM? No? Okay. So also the emergency annex and everything. So cities already basically just took that land from the township to prepare for the data center. I mean, you say you haven't talked to a data center, but I'm pretty sure we have a developer that's talked to a data center because he went by the land, and unless he's going to try and do something else with it, which I'd be glad to have him come up and express his opinions on what's going on. So, and back to, we're talking about, I work for General Motors. And, yes, we have gone through the changes and everything. I've seen the improvements that General Motors has made. But I also know that I've had meetings with upper management, and let's say they were going to go build a new facility somewhere else or anything. We've asked them, are you going to stick to all the EPA regulations, OSHA, ergonomics? Are you going to do everything you can to make the place as best environmentally friendly as what you possibly can for the individuals, for the citizens, for the communities? And all of them have always said, I'm going to do the least amount that I can do and make as much money as I can. So, we've had you data centers have been around and everything. We're here all thinking this is new stuff and everything. Data centers been around. So there's a lot of information out there and everything. We're not hearing anything positive. You talk about fake book or false book or whatever. You say we're only hearing about the negative stuff about it. Isn't that because nobody knows anything positive about it? Nobody knows the benefits. Nobody knows, how does communities profit from it? Everything. I've always wished that I could have become a thousandaire. Had $1,000 every day to spend and everything, and it would build our community. But we're talking about billionaires that's got more money I'm pretty sure most of them have gold toilets, I think, but I mean, the communities, we're always just above broke, it seems like, but yet they are the wealthiest of the wealthiest. Everything, and get all the breaks, and we get all the dung.
If you look at the demographics of our community as far as median household income and all of that, it's improving. Is it growing as fast as we'd like to see it grow? No, but it's improving. It's improving. Okay?
Slowly, but as long as I hope we are, yeah.
It's a slow process. Go ahead. She's gone before too.
Okay. I just wanted to follow up because I think what everybody in the room is trying to communicate is that this is our version of a battery plant, that maybe there's a good reason to build one and some communities benefit from them, but we just think the risks outweigh the benefits, even if there are benefits. And so I'm curious to know more, and that it's not all based on misinformation. I take great pride in being able to read peer-reviewed studies, and many of those are listed on the website that we built. This is not from Facebook, like another commenter said. That I'm reading research out of Harvard and the University of Michigan, and I am a well-informed constituent who has formed a stance on this, not because I'm drinking the water from, Instagram, yada yada yada. We have a real opinion on this that I think deserves a chance. I'm rambling. I hadn't thought through what I would say. I just want to know if there really is an opportunity to create a community survey or to put some kind of vote in place where we are able as a community to say, this is our version of a battery plant. Maybe there's a good reason to have one, but we don't want it. And so can you, as our representatives, just go with that because we're your constituents? Is that a real opportunity, or is that something the city wouldn't entertain?
How do I answer the people that say to me, Mike, I don't understand what the big deal is about a data center. Why wouldn't we want a data center?
Well, that's not my question. My question
So
is,
that's my question to you. I said in the beginning, you'd make statements and I'd ask questions. So I'm asking you a question. How do I respond to the people, many people that say to me, Mike, why wouldn't we want a data center?
I don't know that that's necessarily your responsibility to educate them on. If they want to form an opinion about a political issue, then they can. They could do some research. I don't know that you would need to have a stance as a representative on whether you're pro or against. Your responsibility would be to represent what your community feels, not to convince them one way or another. I don't think you should have a stance in which you are trying to convince them to get on board with a data center. I think you should encourage them to do their own research.
Ma'am, I drive by properties every day when I'm asked.
I don't think that's controversial.
A nuisance, and I have to say, yeah, that's a nuisance. We need to take care of that. That pothole needs filled. I'm dealing with stuff all the time. Every day I'm taking stances on things. I'm sorry, that's my job. Yes, ma'am.
That did not answer my question on whether or not we could have a vote or a community survey.
Sure we could.
Would we
as I
entertain it?
said earlier, it's my understanding there were petitions provided to the clerk of city council and the board of elections today asking for a ban on data centers.
That's very different from a community survey, but that's what you would, that's
Well,
the,
ma'am,
the
that would go
position we
on the
would move
ballot
in.
in November
That's okay.
if there's enough valid signatures. And there were 400 and some signatures, and they only need, I think Tanya, Board of Elections told me 225. So I would think they'd be pretty darn close. Okay? Yep.
I just want to express my opinion. My name is Annette Miller. I have a business downtown in Defiance or whatever, and I also am as a resident in Defiance. I moved back here after several years of living in Los Angeles, and unfortunately, I do see a lot of young people that are trying to make a go of it here. And as much as I love the fact that we're improving things and we're improving our parks, if we continue with this, if we go these types of directions, I do think a lot of people are going to. I don't think 50 jobs is the kind of impact or whatever to have a building out there that employs 50 people or whatever, when it could impact so much environmentally and just how we live, how we, as a community, we live with one another, that we take care of one another and that we pay attention. Because Titan Tire, Maury Taylor, I mean, you're talking about billionaires who come in or whatever. And when there's something that happens and the EPA comes in, it's swept under the carpet and there is damage or whatever. And unfortunately, it's collateral damage and you can't clean it up. And that's just that's my opinion on it. I just feel that it is something that administrations change, unfortunately. And when administrations change, as we all have known, like over the years, some things are a little more slack and some things aren't. So who's going to follow through for sure and make sure that the noise isn't going to injure anyone, like a helicopter flying overhead 24 hours a day? Because I know what it sounds like when Manville has their engine that sometimes runs and makes a terrible noise or whatever. That's just every now and again. This could happen all the time. And there's a trail, there's a legal trail that might not happen as quickly as it should. Thank you.
My couple questions are the estimated 50 workers. They'd have to have a skilled trade. What does our community have for that need? Would those 50 people come from our community? that's my one question. I don't know the answer. The other thing is, well, I got two more questions. One is, if they were to, if this were to happen, could there be a clause or something in the ordinance, whatever it is, to make them have so much money set aside in, I'm not sure, escrow or whatever it is, in case it had to be demolished? And I think about, I live by SK Hand Tool. Well, that, I remember that as a kid. You could hear those hammers hitting the stuff, and then it said vacant, and then there's that tank out there. So maybe there could be something put in there to, like, if it has to go down, they've already funded the money and they can't file bankruptcy and then do that. My other question is, just kind of hearing what people are saying. So if 300 acres was purchased, why would anybody buy 300 acres if you're not a farmer in Northwest Ohio? Just saying. You're not putting apartments out there. I mean, we certainly do need housing. But I just find that kind of odd. Like, why would somebody buy or sell 300 acres if it's not to a farmer? Just saying. I don't know if you have answers, but just observations.
Good evening, everyone. I hate public speaking, but I am here because I think, like many of you, we are very concerned about our community. A community that can be affected heavily if this goes wrong. And we should take this as a big consideration, and we should all be doing research. I believe everyone should educate themselves. Like you said, False Book, it's not the best place for information. There's information on the CDC. There's our information on Harvard. Please do your research. Please look into it. Because as many wonderful people and intelligent people have stated before me, if the damage is done, what is going to be done to fix it? Will we be stuck with this permanently? I already know that a lot of data centers are taking down trees. Trees are a big thing that we need to cool our surrounding area. And if we do not have those, if things cannot survive around us, how are we going to survive in this area? Especially if we've been in this record June, after 132 years, this is the worst year we have had for a drought. My question is, where's the water going to come from? And actually, do we have enough water to facilitate these guys? This is what is highly concerning for me, because I think this is something we should all consider before we just go gung-ho, before we get stuck in a rat race of tech bros that want to make us all the road to pave their way. I think it's something we need to think about before we go any further. And then, yes, they will have a closed looping system. This is fantastic, but they will also need to clean those systems. And those biochemicals, byproducts, let's go directly with what they have. They have refrigerants, PSFA chemicals, heavy metals, biocides, corrosion, scaling, and inhibitors. If this gets into our water, we are going to have more issues. I'm guessing you guys don't ever want to take a drink of the Defiance tap water, right? That's already fantastic as is. Let me just state, if this would affect our water supply, let's think about this. Let's consider it, because as many people and intelligent people that have came before me, we need to consider the future generations. If we want people to stay here, if we want people to become a part of the community, come to our community to make it better. Let's consider all of those factors, please. And then, I'm sorry, I'm not the best at public speaking. All right. I think we should highly consider in one of the regulations that the data center needs to come with renewable energy. I think that's a heavy consideration we should have for our community. We already have many cases of asthma in our area. This is because we are in the black swamp. We drained the black swamp. This is why we have asthma. And then we can cause so many more issues from the air pollution if they do run a diesel generator, if they do run things that take gas. This is a consideration we should put for the environment. Like, we don't have enough issues already with the Canadian wildfires at this point. It's very concerning. I'm sure you guys all can agree. But I hope, last but not least, my last request is please consider this heavily. Do your research, look into it, because as far as I'm concerned, Things that come with NDAs and that people cannot speak about are generally not good for our public health.
My name's Ralph Hahn. I live here in Defiance. Mayor, I hope you didn't bring our fine friends in blue here tonight because of me. That was a joke. I heard several conversations tonight, comments about noise ordinance. I got an air compressor in my workshop that's 65 decibels. That's pretty low. You can stand right beside it and carry on a conversation. But if I had to listen to that daggone thing 24 hours a day, I think I'd have to shoot it. As low as those decibels are, that it would be annoying to me. I heard about the misdemeanor aspect of the noise ordinance, or I worded that wrong. I heard about the noise ordinance having consequences, and I believe that's a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor in probably the lowest form, which carries probably not much more than a slap on the wrist. I am not in favor of the data centers. Why? Well, maybe I just don't want to wear a tinfoil hat. That's a joke. But the truth is, I am scared to death of the environmental impact of something of that nature here in our community. I would much rather see bean fields, cornfields, wheat fields, eagles and hawks than I would something like a data center that could negatively impact us as a community. Now, one more comment. The vibe I've got here tonight from city administration is that they are in favor of a data center being a benefit to the community. I say, put it to a vote. A vote is the only voice that we have. That's the only voice that we have. And if the majority of the people say we're fine with it, as the mayor said, I've heard from a lot of folks that said, why not? Put it to a vote. And if those folks have the overwhelming majority, then I'll live with that. But if the community as a whole is not in favor of a data center, then I think our city administration, our county administration, and everyone else should be listening to what we have to say.
Hi, I didn't say my name earlier. I do apologize. My name's Bree Bigley. Obviously I live here in Defiance. I was not able to make it here for the first 30 minutes of the presentation here. And I heard somebody ask the question earlier, so I did have a question. You said that it would be to, as that gentleman said, a city vote, or like a vote. Is that just the entire of Defiance, or is it just city council that would be able to vote according to the development process here?
This is for every project that comes to planning commission.
Okay.
So at the end, depending on what the application is for, it's either planning commission's vote or city council's vote. That's just how the application process works. That's how it works everywhere.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Everyone's been saying we should put it to a vote, and I just want to be clear that I don't want it to be just the city council. At this point, I've never been to one of these meetings before. As another woman said earlier, I have other things in my life that I have to deal with, and I trust my representatives to be trying to develop things in the proper way for me, for my family, for the city of Defiance. I put that trust in you. Now being here and listening for the past 2 hours, roughly, whatever it's been, I don't feel very trustful. I feel as though you, Mr. Mayor, have been extremely biased in this whole thing, where when everyone is speaking, hey, I don't want the data center, you only speak on why should there be a data center. So at this point, though I have always trusted my elected officials here in Defiance, I don't currently. I don't just want it to be a city vote, because I think that currently you are not representing the city of Defiance, because if you were, you would make the points of both sides of the aisle. But unfortunately, the only thing I'm hearing from you is why it should be good. Well, if A1 did come here, it's just the hypothetical of the positives and not the negatives, which I understand a lot of people are speaking about the negatives, so why add to the fire, right? But you being the person, the people that are going to make that decision according to how this works, I do feel like you should be less biased than what I'm currently hearing. So I hope that when it comes to a vote, you don't just make it the city council, because right now I do not trust the city council. I want a vote of the entirety of Defiance. Any response would be appreciated.
Ma'am, 3 times now I've said, it's my understanding today there were petitions filed with 400 plus signatures putting a ban on data centers in the city. That's not something for city council to vote on. That would go before the qualified electors of the city of Defiance, the voters. Everyone in the city. Now, not out in Ayersville, not out in Brunersburg or anything such as that. City of Defiance.
Why is that fair, though? If another woman earlier, I did not know, spoke about Ayersville, if they share the water of the city of Defiance, you're saying that they would not get a vote in that. Why is that?
Because they aren't in the city of Defiance.
But if they're going to be affected in the same environmental way,
those rules.
Okay, fair enough.
Now, let me go on.
Yeah, for sure.
I knew when I came here tonight that for the most part the room would be full of detractors. I knew that. I felt like somebody had to play devil's advocate. And these folks that I work with will tell you I often do that. Even though I may think or feel one way, I argue the other side because I think both sides need to be considered. That's why I've taken the stance I've taken. You may think you know what I think, but I'm not sure you do.
I'm not saying that I know what you think. I'm saying that what you're currently saying in these past 2 hours is what I've collected.
And
I've
I
never
just
heard.
explained why I did that.
Yes, I understand that, but all the statements you have made have not been in consideration of the things people are saying. I think that every time that someone says, hey, this is going to negatively affect our water, it's never going to negatively affect the animals that are around us, you say, well, what if it didn't? And I don't think that that's fair. Again, I just want to be clear that when everybody here is saying that they want a vote, that it is a vote of the city of Defiance and not
Ma'am,
just
I think
elected
they're gonna get that
representatives.
vote.
Thank you.
Okay?
That's what I wanted to hear. I appreciate it.
That's the
Thank
fifth
you.
time I've said it.
I do appreciate it. My last thing I wanted to say as well, just to be clear, is this whole time I feel like you've been a bit disingenuous by saying fake book or X.
False book.
False book. Excuse me.
I always call it false book.
Absolutely. I think that by you saying that to a lot of the people that have brought actual data here and even cited some of their sources, I just think that that's a disingenuous way of framing things. I think that it is for you to just say all of these rumors. Someone said earlier, it's the puzzle pieces falling into place. And I think that by saying that it's just rumors or even making that assumption to a group of people that you're having a discussion with is just unfair, especially as the mayor is someone that's supposed to represent us. I think that it's not fair for you to say those types of things about people bringing actual data to you. And I just wanted to be clear about that
Nobody has handed me a piece of paper.
No, they have all spoken to you.
They have, but they haven't referenced any of what their sources are.
There were multiple people specifically in that line that did.
I've heard Harvard. I just heard University of Michigan. That's it. And we'll go back and we'll see what Harvard has to say. We'll see what University of Michigan has to say. But Nikki's done a lot of very hard work. Thank you for your thoughts.
Absolutely.
But the signatures have to be verified yet, ma'am. Let's not jump the gun.
100%. What he's referring to is a ballot measure that is up for vote, just people in defiance, because in order to put it on the ballot, it has to get like, I don't know, a certain percentage of the last electoral vote or whatever. It's something we should be part of that. And it's I've seen the ballot specifically to ban any data center over 25 megawatts. So basically, is it going to come to us, be on the ballot, and say, basically, do you want a data center? Yes or no? It's going to be to place a ban on anything over 25 megawatts. It would not be specific to a project. It wouldn't be, hey, they're going to build behind Menards. You want to vote on that? It would be in general for the future as a city of Defiance. Do you want anything over 25 megawatts? Yes or no? And you would be able to vote on that the same way that you're going to vote on every other thing. The levy for the library or whatever else is on the ballot. That's why it's not specific to like, oh, there's this project you want this now that happens with Ayersville. It's a ballot measure about a specific ordinance that will happen. But ban anything over 25 megawatts. Thank you. Why does it have to be a number on that? I don't know. I'm not charging that. Just the mayor has referenced it repeatedly, and I know he's right, and that's right.
We do have someone that got it and asked the chief mayor.
I know we're about ready to wrap up and everything. Mike, I want to thank you again for having this meeting. I personally thought the venue was going to be too small. It was pretty packed and everything. I think probably we had a majority of people that probably decided to stay home to watch it live at home and everything, which I encourage more and more people to watch everything. We are going to continue to have these meetings, aren't we?
I believe the next meeting, like I said, which is a special city council meeting, is
The 18th.
18th.
at 5 o'clock.
Is it
at
going? Is it
Community
going to be here?
Auditorium. Let me explain why I chose this venue. We tried to estimate how many people we thought were at the city council meeting last Tuesday. I've been involved in meetings in the community auditorium. It's very difficult for me to hear. That was the largest complaint that we heard at city council was, I can't hear. I can't hear. I've been at events at the high school gym where the band is playing because I have grandchildren in the band. I can never hear what the band director is saying.
And stuff.
I wanted you folks to be able to see and hear, and I think we've accomplished all that. And we have heard you, and I don't know whether you realize this or not, but you're represented by 7 city council people, and they're all here tonight. They've been here all night. They're here. I haven't singled them out. But they're here. I've seen them, and council president was here. So they're all here. And again, all of this is going to be available online on YouTube or whatever it is, and so people can watch it there. But that was my reason, Mike, for choosing this site.
Well, I'm sure we might have more people. So you said the next one's going to be at the auditorium?
Yep.
Okay.
That's
All
the
right.
city council.
And then, okay. And then, so you've heard a lot tonight and everything. So then can we look to the future that you're going to be bringing us answers to our questions or anything, or bringing us facts and stuff, or are we going to have to do that ourselves?
City council is going to consider or discuss. I don't like to speak for city council. I'm the executive branch. City council is the legislative branch. But I believe what President McMaster read last night was the intent to discuss the zoning that Nikki's put together and the moratorium. Those are the 2 things that I think city council intends to discuss.
Okay. Again, I want to thank you for
You're welcome.
for tonight.
I've had fun. I really don't mind this. I should tell you all, I refereed college football for 19 years. You have no idea. You guys are easy. You really are. Now, I think Mr. Keller wants to speak. Some of you have been waiting for that. I hope you will give him the same respect you've given me, and you've been great. We sort of threw the 2-minute rule out the window. Agree? So Brian may run a little long. And I just hope in 2 minutes I'm not hearing 2-minute rule, because we didn't apply it to any of you.
All right, thank you, Mike, and
Yep.
great job, Nikki, on putting together this presentation. I purposely wanted to go last because I wanted to hear what everyone had to say and understand your concerns and stuff. got some prepared remarks, but I'll go off script, I'm sure, as I always do. Um, I s- uh, if someone told me a new major development was could potentially come to our community where my family lives, where my children live, where my grandchildren live, I would be concerned as well. You know, I'd have questions about the noise, water, power, traffic, infrastructure, impact on rates that for water and electricity. I completely reasonable concerns and exactly the kind of questions that I would be asking for any development that I brought into the community. How would it affect my family and certainly my family's health and my grandkids' health? You know, Defiance is my home. Um, I care about this community just as much as anyone else in this room, and I have to live with outcomes and decisions as well. The way I've approached life and the way I've approached my business, and we call it in my company the Keller Circle of Life, where we deliver for our employees, who deliver for our customers, and we give back to the community to enrich as many lives as possible. And I really, you know, we have a couple charities that, you know, we support Operation Cavik, we support the United Academy, you know, who help troubled teens, and we just started a program on probationary kids and helping them find their values and purpose, and you know, so they don't continue to get in trouble. And we've had some amazing success with Ignite Academy and helping those kids. So that means, you know, the giving back to community, enriching lives means when I see an opportunity for my business, I don't think about my business first. I consider the community and the impact on the community. You know, that's part of the enriching as many lives as possible. I want to do things that are good for Defiance, Defiance first. So what concerns me about a moratorium is that it just doesn't affect one potential project. It can affect future opportunities we haven't seen. So what a moratorium means is the phone calls stop happening to Erica, the emails stop coming in for good development. As a developer myself, when I go into community, I want to make sure that there, and before I put like a 12 or $15 million building in, you know, that it has, you know, a strong mayor, a personable mayor, you know, who can help sell companies to come in my vacant building, you know, a good, you know, city council, strong economic development, strong county commissioners. Because when you're investing in a rural community, if you feel like you're going to get any type of negative feedback, then, you know, then my building just sits there vacant. So that's my problem with the, you know, a moratorium on a broader scale. So I believe we can protect our community without closing the door on future opportunities through the zoning rules. And I've heard talk about we don't trust, you know, city council, we don't trust the mayor. I think what you're also saying is we don't trust the planning commission. You know, and I've sat in front of planning commission many times, and I've not always liked what they've told me, like what I have to do around my building, but of course I do it. You know, like sidewalks. I got a sidewalk in front of the deck building, like a sidewalk to nowhere, but planning commission said put a sidewalk in, so I put a sidewalk in. And
Someday that sidewalk will go somewhere.
in 20 years, it's going to go all down Elliott Road. So, and look, I'll be the one paying for it because I own all the
Somebody
property.
upset because we built the sidewalk out Ayersville Avenue. Nobody walks out there. Well, it's 'cause there was no
There's no
sidewalk.
sidewalks.
But you go out there now, they're walking up and down the sidewalk along Ayersville Avenue. Sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I guess I opened up a can of worms there, didn't I? Let's talk about roads next.
Yes, yep.
This is why the zoning approach that Nikki Warney presented tonight is a better path forward with concerns about noise, water, and setbacks and buffering and infrastructure and lighting, you know, which you can put in all that stuff into the zoning requirements. And I don't care if the dBA and the noise is 70 or if it's 35. I don't care. You know, the company's just got to comply with it. The only like downside of that is if Johns Manville wants to put an expansion and they got to comply with the 35, you know, dBA. Well, will they want to put an expansion in at that point? Can they do it? I don't know. Maybe they can, and maybe we don't care. Maybe we just want 35 as our number. So what concerns me about the idea of a ban and making broader decisions is like we haven't even, talked to data centers to know what they want and need and how we can or cannot accommodate them. So I did buy all that land, means and some partners, with the idea of doing some sort of large industrial development. And in my past development, I put a spec building up and I pray that someone comes there. And I've generally been successful. I did a spec building in Napoleon and I did not get a user, but luckily my warehousing business was able to accommodate Campbell Soup there. So we were able to, take care of that and make that investment productive. It would, so we bought this land, we did power studies, we did water studies. Yes, I put a lot of money at risk. That's what I do. If you haven't noticed that, is I put money at risk to hopefully get a return out of it someday. And I've been fortunate with my spec buildings. And here Deck's building that wants me to build another building, so that's great. I think they're up to 85 employees now in that 320,000 square feet, soon to be 470,000 square feet. And so what I have learned through my years of industrial development is if you get the site ready, in other words, if you get power there, you understand the resources, you understand the water, you understand what gray water can do for cleaning, or not cleaning, but cooling and stuff like that. Could be another revenue source for the city if that works out. So we just got a lot of these power studies done, understand the capabilities. Now it's like, what can come to this area? And it'd be awful nice to be able to have that conversation with a user of some sort and say, okay, what's your intent for our city? And then the planning commission, which, they did a really good job on the fertilizer plant. They did a really good job on the Metalex plant and what they wanted to do, the aluminum recycling company, about buffers and hills and, fences and all that kind of stuff. The planning commission really cares about this community, as well as city council. And I think the fact the city council already voted to explore a moratorium shows that they really care about the city and care about your concerns. And they're going to make a decision in a couple of weeks on whether zoning is going to satisfy their concerns or whether we need to take more time to consider more zoning requirements that could be put in. So it's hard to, if we close the door, we'll never have the conversation with anyone to see what they can bring to Defiance, whether it's a data center, whether it's a manufacturer, whatever would want to come in this spot that I now have created that is for industrial development to bring jobs and investment to Defiance, to have a place where all our kids can grow up and have jobs, where we have tax revenue to fix streets, to build parks, to fund our schools, which, all of our schools need more money. It would be nice to hire more teachers and lower that, student to teacher ratio, whatever it needs to happen, put a vocational system in Defiance High School, potentially, that would be really cool. But it's all about just having the conversation with whoever wants to come and have this property that I've now got to a point where it's like the new shovel ready, right? We got the utilities there, or know how to get them there. Got the water. We understand all of that. Understand the limitations of the fresh water and what it would cost to do, so that either that eliminates a whole bunch of users right there. So anyhow, that's my position. I'm the guy behind behind all this, and believe me when I say that I am here for this community and want to do what's right. And if it's not right, I don't want it. And I want people to pay their full freaking taxes. If it's a bad deal, I'm not bringing it to town. And, my daughter up there will hold me accountable. So thank you very much for your time.
Anything else? Well, I want to again thank you all for being here. I don't have a lot more to say. I mean, I just don't. Thank you. I appreciate everyone treating me with respect and treating our speakers with respect. And so you just want to follow very closely what's going on. Crescent News, and I know not everyone subscribes. I have a lot of people say to me, well, I don't read the Crescent. That's unfortunate. I think it's generally unbiased reporting and as honest as poor Todd Helmer can do, because he's pretty much a one-man show. So I said before, Nikki's had her email up there for quite some time. Mine's much easier, mayor@cityofdefiance.gov. And obviously you can call City Hall and ask for me as well. And with that, again, thanks for coming. Have a good evening.